So I know we've talked about AI a lot, and it comes up at every conference. I think we all chuckle every time it comes up at a conference and in every research piece. But and Dan, you talked about a little bit this before, but it is really cool from my perspective around how AI, if you get creative, can optimize your operations and change your task-based repeatable offenses and turn those into an AI bot and really free up your operations associate, your claims associate to really deliver that, I would say, customer first experience. What advice or ideas have you thought of that you would want to share with, those that are listening to us or may replay this later around how we use AI moving forward? And Christy, I know you talked about that skeptical versus pragmatic approach in the mindset. Dan, I'll start with you and then maybe we do a round robin.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's looking for those areas, right, where it fits your organization. I don't think it's a one size fits all. And if one carrier is using it for, call it back end automation of, let's say at a high level document summarization, that might not be the right, the right need, right, for, carrier number two. So I think it has to fit kind of where you're going and what's important and where you need, help. But I think what we've seen in general, right, was it's gone from aspirational to a very pragmatic, thought out approach. Carriers are either partnering, well, they're probably doing both, right? They're partnering with vendors, right, and that kind of spans how much of AI they have as well as their approach versus the carrier and what they're doing with their internal teams. A lot of them are hiring a lot of data scientists. That's probably a job title that if you're going into college, maybe you want to think about having that kind of sprinkled in there from a major perspective or a minor, because I don't think that's going away for sure. But yeah, it's going to be very pragmatic, right? We've gone from predictive analytics and being able to leverage data to kind of figure out what's we're on step 10. How can we predict what step 11 is going to be, right? What's the right outcome? To GenAI, and now to where I think it's kind of matured to a agentic approach, right? Especially from an insurance perspective, that's what we're mainly seeing is kind of how can we kind of inject AI to kind of fill the gap from an optimization perspective as well as in a customer perspective. So to me, it's those two areas. It's where can you drive efficiency on the back end, whether that's again document management, scanning documents, looking at kind of key rules, and again that's combination of LLM and GenAI with just predictive data, right? And so, and then where can you insert the chatbots and the automation with AI appropriately that you're still keeping the consumer at the heart of it? Because I think we've all had those experiences on the phone where you're just either hitting zero or saying operator too many times that you want to hang up the phone. So I think there is the balance there of those two key pieces, but. Yeah, I think you're going to see that kind of trajectory of skeptical and pragmatic kind of crossed from a being leveraged versus we're not getting in there at all.
Kellie, Christy, anything that you would add from your perspective and what you're seeing?
I think what we're seeing, so in our recent study, we had 78% of those global life insurance carriers say, their biggest data readiness issue is their legacy systems and then moving into AI. And so as we look at, where you have that opportunity, like you say, Christy, people that know how to use it will replace those that don't. It's not replacing jobs. It's just helping you be better. We see a lot of it, obviously, in the claims side of the house. If you've got to read a huge medical file to help make some determinations, that's where we saw it first. And then those chatbots that we all love and hate at the same time, Dan, I think those hyper-personalized recommendations in real time are where the industry is trying to get to. And so we'll continue to see a lot of that, especially in medical integration and helping that process flow along is what we're seeing the most of.
I agree with what both Dan and Kellie was saying. And she, like she was saying, it makes the experience good for the case managers too, not having to flip through hundreds of pages of medical in some cases, or, if you're looking at an LTD case. And I think, a lot of the case managers go into that role because they want to help people. And if they're having to do, mundane tasks every day, they probably don't have great job satisfaction. You can probably see turnover. Being able to use AI to do the more day-to-day tasks that doesn't have to be done by a human, that then frees them up to talk to, the claimants where they wanted to. I mean, we talk a lot about digital and people not wanting to talk to people, but because there are so many different generations in the workforce, and then as people get older, they obviously need their medical in many situations. And sometimes people just want to talk to somebody to make sure that everything's going to be okay. And that, I think, gives case managers more fulfillment in their roles when they can spend the time to talk to those people and help them really understand their benefits or what's coming next, instead of having to do 100 tasks to hit their quota or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, but I do think you hit on something, Christy, and you mentioned it earlier. I forgot to kind of double click on it. That retention aspect, right, for your internal employees, is huge. If you can, if in your typical day, right, we I would say in our family we're a little bit competitive, so it's kind of it's like who knows this, who knows that, and you can go on your phone, right, and just ask a question. Who was the Cy Young winner or whatever, X, Y, and Z. You should be able to do that same thing, right, within your insurance, within your systems, doing your job. So to ask those simple questions that, yeah, I could look it up, but it's going to save me a lot more time by just going right here and just asking a question in that kind of embedded fashion, is the expectation. And the further you get away from that, the further the employee knows it and just gets frustrated because you're just not keeping up, right? And if you're not keeping up there, then where else are you not keeping up? And I think, so that drives, I think, dissatisfaction. And again, we know how hard it is to find good talent, and then to keep good talent, I think is the real trick, right? It's the same thing for, new business or whatever. It's 10 times harder to land that new client than it is to keep that person. The same thing applies to employees and retention.